everyone. Welcome to the next edition of the Harvesting Tomorrow videocast series in partnership with ThinkAg. I'm Sushma Vasudevan, a managing director and partner at BCG, where I lead our work on agriculture, food systems, and livelihoods. Today, we will talk about systematic scaling, architecting digital public infrastructure for agri-food systems. And I'm privileged to have in conversation with me two fantastic industry giants, Ms. Rama Devi, who is the Director, Emerging Technologies and leads the Emerging Technologies wing of the Information Technologies, Electronics and Communication Department of the Government of Telangana, and Mr. Hemendra Mathur, who needs no introduction and is the co-founder of ThinkAg and also a venture partner at Bharat Innovation Fund. To set the context for this very important discussion, I want to bring to mind to all of us an important data point. 40 to 50% of our farmers are only digitally registered in various state and central databases, and often with fragmented or incomplete information, underscoring the need for a unified DPI. Studies suggest that a well-architected DPI could improve farmer income by almost 20 to 30% through better access to markets, financial services, and advisory, while also optimizing resource use such as water or fertilizers. DPI has hence become a critical priority for India's agri-food system, aiming to streamline access to services, reduce fragmentation, and ensure transparency. With initiatives like the AgriStack, India is actually positioning itself to integrate various agri-data systems into one cohesive national framework. Hemendra, anything else that you would like to add on this before we open the floor to our esteemed guest, Mrs. Rama Devi, and talk through the great work that she's been doing in the state of Telangana on this?
Thanks, Sushma, for the introduction, and welcome Ramaji to this videocast series. Uh, Sushma, as you rightly said, AgriStack has the potential to truly transform the Indian agriculture. The majority of challenges which farmer faces, be it access to markets, access to advisory, access to credit, access to insurance, I think many of them can be solved with the use of AgriStack. And that really brings a lot of excitement around the DPI that we are developing here. And I think the momentum it has picked up at the central government level and at the level of many state governments is also quite remarkable in the last few years. Private sector as well as many agri-tech startups are very much looking forward in terms of how they can contribute in building it and using it. So I'll stop here and I'll request Ramaji to share her views on, how do you see the potential of AgriStack in India? I think all of us are waiting for it. The big question is how long it is going to take. And do you see any challenges or barriers to implementation? Over to you, Ramaji.
Thank you, Hemant and thank you, Sushma, for having me here today. It's my pleasure, to be here and share our experiences uh, uh, in our journey for the last 3+ years in the agri-tech space. In fact, we have been working with the agri-tech ecosystem stakeholders for quite a long time. We have had consultations with the entire ecosystem for about almost more than, I think, 3 to 4 months, wherein we actually came out with a framework of use cases initially. What are the important use cases the agri culture sector needs it. So that's how our journey started. This was way back in the year 2020 when we actually started to focus on agri-tech space. So we identified key use cases, where it really benefits farmers. That's how we started our journey. And initially, our thought process was, TK, we have identified these use cases. Let's go implement them. We identified startups and actually worked on a very unique project called Sagubab, where we deployed emerging technologies, and a number of startups were involved. During this whole process of implementation, it was a big learning for us. While we all know that data is required, data should be made available, but there is no institutional mechanism in place when we started off this. So it was like The startups had to wait a couple of weeks to get the data. Then again, it was back and forth process. We realized this is not the way to go. Then we again did a secondary research, and I know how other globally, what is being done in this area, and we came out with this idea of ADEX, or you may call it AgriStack. We named it as Agriculture Data Exchange Platform. This was launched last year in August, August, where we invited all the ecosystem. And the technical partner is Indian Institute of Science partner. It has been more than a year, and we have about 22 data sets, core data sets, I would say, mostly contributed by various government departments within the agriculture. Again, within the agriculture space, we have 10 sub-departments, So all of them are actually shared. Of course, a lot of effort has gone into it. When we started off, DPDP also was not in place. Now, actually, the bill is coming out. So, and when it comes to agri-tech space, unlike the fintech or other spaces, we need actually farmers' data. It's personal data that's required, to issue advisories to farmers. As you have mentioned, and Hemandaji also said, access to various, services to farmers. So how do you actually provide those services unless you know the farmer, his contact details, mobile number, the kind of crop that is growing, the area of land that he owns, all of this information is required for companies or startups that are in this agri-tech space. So we said, okay, we'll actually make this available. But as I said, personal data, you have to be really careful. So we came up with a policy management framework. It's called Agri Data Policy Framework, which we put in guardrails. It's almost similar to DPDP, I would say. So it complies, it aligns with DPDP as on today. So we brought out our own framework and built this ADEX platform. And we were very excited, saying that it's the first of its kind. Now, more than a year has gone by, but it has not taken off the way we expected in the last 1 year, by 4 data sets, and there we have 10 data providers, 5 users, from various startups. HDFC Bank is also on board, and we are about to actually, in a week's time, issue loans to farmers using data from their platform, which is a big thing. But still, it did not take off the way we said, oh, there is so much need out there, People will just, ecosystem, like could be input suppliers, it could be startups, it could be research institutes. They just flock to the IDEX is what we thought, well, it did not happen that way. So, so what are, then we started evaluating it has gone wrong. What are barriers, or what is that we need to do? Accelerate the adoption. So as you rightly mentioned, Sushma, at the beginning, the AgTech adoption as per a World Economic Report, globally, it isn't 9% of farmers adopt AgTech solutions. And within Asia, it's just 9%. So unless the AgTech, or agriculture technological solutions take off, because while data may be there, but somebody needs to use this data, right, to develop solution, and those solutions need to be adopted by farmers. That adoption is at a dismal low, as I said, 9%. Unless that adoption increases, probably the need for data, will also increase, is hard learned. So, and why are farmers not adopting AgTech solutions? Number one is the concern for ROI. So, solutions will have to be affordable, easy to use. These are the two very important principles, for any AgTech solution. So, that's one of the biggest, roadblock is felt. The second one, as I said at the beginning, we have to share personal data. And as you all know, that's one of the biggest challenges for us. Right? We have put in so many guardrails. We have come up with our own policy management framework, but still the departments are hesitant, when it comes to sharing the deep personal, details with the farmer. It's just not the department. Many startups that are working in this space, they have the data about, each startup will go to a few farmers and then collect the data. But again, it's a very rich data that they have. But when it comes to sharing, again, it's personal data. That's one of the biggest challenge. While we have put in consent management framework, consent modules, but still that's one of the, maybe it takes time to build that trust and overcome those concerns. That is the second. And thirdly, a lot of education awareness, programs need to be organized. That's where we did not do a good job, I would say. So considering all this, to me, if you look at Aadhaar, it took almost Aadhaar more than 8 years. And of course, there was this, mandate from government of India that every citizen has to register. So that actually helped Aadhaar to take off. Similar is the case of UPI. It took almost more than 4 or 5 years, much longer. So I would say, for ADEX to actually, or AgriStack as you all refer to it, at least, this my, again, gut feeling or intuition may call, at least 2 to 3 years. This is what I see, to become a, or take off the way the other stacks have actually done. Yeah.
Great to see, honestly, the work that you have already commenced as a state. And thanks for transparently sharing some of the challenges that you're facing to drive adoption. I think many of the points that you said around how do we really activate the market, how do you create trust so that people share data, and how do you just drive ad tech adoption, I think is well heard and noted. One of the other challenges I think that is faced in this space as you look at democratizing data is just the lack of standardization in data, right? Within a state itself, but also across states. How do you think a solution such as a national DPI can address this challenge around data standardization? Be great to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I would say you hit the nail by pointing out this challenge. In fact, when we started off, this is the biggest challenge we faced. So what we did was that, unlike health sector, where you have, standards for everything, like if you're storing patient data, there is a standard. If you're storing diseases, there's disease classification, ICD 10 or 12. If it's radiological images, there is a standard. But in the agriculture sector, there are no standards as of now. While most of the organizations follow the FAIR principles for data standardization, but other than that, domain-specific standards are not available for agriculture. So what we did was we came out with a role aggregation schema, where important data elements were actually kind of put in a schema, and we came out with the JSON standard. So every data provider that is going to provide data over this platform will need to comply with that aggregation line. So there's a format setting now. We solve the problem. But again, this is not kind of a national standard or international standard, right? So maybe Bureau of Indian Standards need to come out with a certain standards, or even METI can work on this. But when you talk about standards, a long process, it will take at least minimum 1 to 2 years. 2 years is what I'm looking at it. So we did not want to wait that long. So that's what we went ahead with this aggregation. And going forward, I think, with the advent of AI and Gen AI, I'm not sure if I'm right in this area. Probably, even if you don't have those standards in place, by the time at least the standards come in, we can use these technologies to kind of standardize this data. Again, it's a very ambitious one. So probably, that could be the solution. Because Gen AI, as we know, uses disparate data structures. It could be structured, unstructured, whatever, when it can do that, why not we use Gen AI or AI technology to kind of take data from different sources and kind of standardize this? My thought process. Again, implementation might be a challenge, but yes, but the imperative is that we need to actually come out with data standards in the agri sector. Yeah.
Thanks, Ramaji. It was very helpful. I think you also pointed out a very important element that AgTech adoption continue to be very low. Even the studies that I have done in India, AgTech adoption among farmers is between 9 to 10%. So approximately 20 million farmers have adopted some AgTech solution. And we went deeper. I think one thing came out. Of course, a lot of these AgTech players are new. So there is an element of trust, right? With government, with state governments, with corporates, the element of trust is at another level because farmers have seen them long enough. But the average age of an AgTech solution in India is probably 3 to 4 years, right? So I think that is one challenge which a lot of AgTech faces. I think the second challenge which I see is also uh, the if you look at farmer, he's most comfortable, uh, you know, using a voice bot or a video bot and extremely comfortable in vernacular. So it's also a function of how do you build a farmer interface, right? I think that is also a very important element in helping farmers adopt some of these digital solution. And I think that brings to this element of consent, right? As we already know that you need to comply with data sharing protocols and there's a consent framework which is in place. But what are your views on it? Is it, let's say, is it too cumbersome for farmers to give the consent? Will that defeat the purpose with which AgriStack is built? How do we draw lines so that the data is not compromised and at the same time there's enough adoption, there are enough use cases?
Well, I would say it is the biggest challenge, that we are facing on IDEX. While, as I said, we have put in place a data management policy framework, and and our solution is also aligned to the DPDP Act as of now. But when you're trying to implement that consent management solution, module, well, technically it is possible. You can do it. It's not an issue at all. But how do you make farmers understand, the value of giving a consent, and the usability of the consent module has been a challenge. So what the way we are doing is currently, again, this will evolve, I we say, today while we are adopting a particular kind of module, but tomorrow as technology, as this particular area evolves, more uh, easy to use solutions could emerge. There are two kind of solutions that we actually experimented. One is in the Sagu Bagu project that I talked about, where we are deploying emerging technologies across the value chain. This was before ADEX came into place. So there, our partner, on the field, they had to collect farmers' data, as I said. They used a voice solution, like, it's an mobile app solution where the consent of the farmer is recorded. Where a question is asked, we are collecting this is the information for this particular purpose. Are you okay with this? So that consent is recorded. That was much easier, I would say. But it's not scalable. You cannot go to each farmer, and so in the ADEX, we built a consent management module wherein if any user is going to use the personal data of the farmer, like for example, as I said, HDFC Bank is going to use this data to issue loans to farmers. They were telling us it takes them 30 days to actually validate the credentials before they issue the loan. But with ADEX, they're able to do it in less than a day or something. It could probably come down to minutes or so. And the way that we are currently doing a plan to do is when they actually evaluate the form, loan application. Obviously, they need a loan application from the farmer, right? When they're evaluating this loan application, they actually validate the information on the loan application with the edX data. So before they get access to the edX data, a form displays wherein they need to get the consent of the farmer. Unfortunately, we could not implement the voice-based solution as you rightly mentioned. Maybe in the next version we will do it. It's an online form where they just need to click, say yes or no. Just like for Aadhaar, we get yes or no, right? When so there, yes or no, they need to do, and the purpose is also explained why this particular information is collected in that form. In we are using that in Telugu language also, and we are also thinking of like instead of a farmer need to read that, a voice based recording will be put in place where this will be communicated to the farm. So farmer will need to just press a button. So we are trying to make it as easy as possible, but again, I'm concerned about the implementation challenges. Maybe we solve them as we go forward.
As we worked with many ag tech players, across multiple states, we realized that there are several challenges they encounter while they look at scaling up solutions, right, in the state context. In many cases, they need access to the last mile infrastructure that is available in these states because digital solutions still tend to be phygital in our state. They need access to some data sources which they don't necessarily have access to. And there are multiple such challenges that they face when they look at scaling up a solution. In your pursuit as a state to push ad tech adoption, two things I want to understand. One is, what would be your advice to ag tech solution providers on what it will take for them to scale up these solutions? Second is, are there any structural enablers that you as the state think you can provide to these ag tech providers to help them scale up their solutions in the state? Will be good to understand your perspectives on this.
Sure, Shushma. In fact, as I said in the beginning, any ag tech solution will have to be affordable because the farmer, as it is, uh, their income is so low, they cannot afford to invest on ag tech solution unless it's very, very cheap for them, economically viable. That's number one. for the Actic startup. The second one is very easy to use, as Mindra was mentioning. It probably it could be voice based, because most of the farmers may not be literate also, to read whatever is, go to website, even open an app, type information and all. It should be as easy to use. If you look at, I always give this example of WhatsApp. Everybody uses, irrespective of if you're, educated or not educated, digital divide, But I see even my maid using WhatsApp. And I'll tell you a simple example. One day she wanted to convey to me that she's not able to come, she just recorded the message. Till then, I never thought you could use this recording, the tool in such a way. She just recorded the message and told them I'm not coming. So it's so easy to use. That's one. So affordable and ease of use are the two things that the startups need to keep in mind when they're designing the solutions that will help them scaling up. Adopted by large number of farmers. These are the two things in my view. And the other question that you asked is very important. Last mile, access to last mile infrastructure is one of the biggest challenges for startups. Most of the startups come to us, in fact, asking for that, because once the government is on the ground, saying, telling the farmers, okay, this is a solution that will benefit you, that credibility or trust comes in. That's number one. Second, while scaling up, you need access to large number of farmers, right? That can happen only through the government. Of course, as like UPI, if you look at India and Aadhaar, now you don't really need to go to ground and do that. But agriculture is something different. Still, we are not at that stage. So here, public-private partnership will definitely help, to address this last mile connectivity. And we have seen this literally in the Sagu Bagu project that I mentioned about. Initially, we went for 7,000 farmers, and we had to deploy a team of people on the ground to help farmers adopt this solution. Otherwise, they were not interested. They were not sure how to use it, how to go about it. So there was a team that actually guided the farmers. And once they're convinced that this really helps them. In fact, after the you know implementation, we carried out the impact assessment, and there was an increase in the revenue for farmers. By about, I think, more than 20%. So, and by word of mouth also, when a neighboring farmer gets, a better price, then obviously they tend to explore such kind of solutions. So, government, the public-private partnership is essential for agri-tech solutions to scale up. We have seen this in multiple projects, helping different startups as well as enterprises that actually implemented different kind of solutions.
Thanks, Samvaji. I think you mentioned affordability as one of the way to scale AgTech solution, and I completely agree with you. And I'll tell you where the challenge is coming from a AgTech perspective. Majority of AgTech has spent millions and millions of dollars of data capital building databases, proprietary databases, right? And that was extremely expensive. Where the key strength is in building analytic tools, or as you rightly said, some interesting APIs or use of AI, etc. Now, I'm assuming with public databases like AgriStack available, that cost of data collection, storage will go down significantly for startups, right? So if, let's say, an agri fintech startup is giving a loan and charging a 24% interest rate, probably he can give the loan at
Yeah.
closer to bank rates, right? Right now, executing a 50,000 rupee loan takes almost 5,000 to 8,000 rupees of transaction cost, right? So that is the state of affairs, and that's why you see a lot of these solutions being not affordable by the farmers, and that's where I think the public stacks like AgriStack and other stack that we may see in agriculture will substantially reduce those transactional costs for private sector players, especially startups, to reach out to farmers. So I'm very hopeful, and this challenge of affordability should become for farmers, it should become more affordable as we go along. Secondly, also you mentioned about use of WhatsApp. I can tell you from a farmer perspective, WhatsApp, YouTube, Instagram, even Facebook, they are so widely used because they are so user friendly and they see value in it. And the amount of collectivization of farmers which has happened through WhatsApp groups is probably unimaginable. So clearly they are comfortable. It's important they see the value in the solution. And that brings me to my next question. Look, private sector, especially startups, are eagerly awaiting to get access to this data, right? And as you rightly said, we all are learning, we are building the right architecture and protocols to make it available. But how do you see that process of open sourcing? Will it be a blanket open sourcing? Will it be calibrated? Is there a way, to make it, uh, you know, even if it is gradual, but let private sector engage so that we can, at some stage, make it open source to all the players and do multiple use cases?
Yeah, it's indeed open source. It's that's the reason we call it DPI. Whatever. Of course, DPI is again very loosely. I mean, there is no standard definition for DPI as of now. Different organizations have different design principles, but more or less, I think 80% of the design principles are common across. Like open source, they say, the other one interoperability, public good, and so on. So the current ADEX that we have built is a DPI. In fact, we evaluated against a matrix. Provided by DPI Academy. It was recently set up by one of the groups. So when we evaluated, we scored around 80, more than 80 marks, out of 100 score. So it comes under good DPI. So it is open source. And our idea is not just, this edX is just not for the government data alone. As of now, it's designed in such a way that anybody and everybody in the AgTech space can actually make available their data on the platform. And also, we have actually categorized the data into three different, categories. I would say one is public data. So if a startup has some data, it's not proprietary, but they still have and can share it. And if we can just categorize it public and make it available, anybody can. There is another set of data called private data. So if it's proprietary data and startups or any enterprises might have invested a lot of effort or, they've invested in form of money and so on, they may not want to share the data without any cost, right? So they can monetize the data and they can actually categorize it private and they can set the terms and conditions. They can have a data sharing agreement and so on. That is a private. Of course, third is the personal data where we have stringent, guardrails put in place. Even anybody can again use that private data also to share. So another category of data providers we actually conceptualize or we at least expect and could emerge. See, you have data providers, you have data consumers or users, right? So what we thought, there could be a different set of actors like data service providers who can use the raw data. For example, whatever the government provides is raw data. Whatever we collect out there, we just make it available without any processing or enriching the data. Maybe data service providers can use this data, process it and make it in a form that is amenable directly to solutions or make it rich and probably monetize it also. As of now, edX is open to everyone. So it's open source. It's, and as I said, startups, research institutions, enterprises, anybody can use it. Right? It's under the control. It's not. It's just a platform that we make it available. That's all. Government has no control on that. It's democratic. Usage control is there. Data sharing agreements are put in place. So as a data provider, or you have all the control on your data. That's the way we have architected it.
Thanks. No, that's very useful to know. And I think open sourcing framework that I've used in Telangana, I think is very useful for other states also, because this is where a lot of other states are struggling today. So Telangana being one of the leaders in this space, I think it would be good to contribute to how other states are developing their stacks and open sourcing it. I think that will be very helpful. Sushma, do you have any question before we conclude or any remarks?
Oh, thank you very much, Ramadevi ma'am. That was a very insightful discussion. In my view, I think it impressed a lot of facts that while DPI is important, we need to have the right structural enablement around it for it to really succeed. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for having me here.
So thanks, Ramaji, for this wonderful chat. At the end, all I want to say is that the kind of digitization that we have seen in Indian agriculture in last 10 years, that was quite a bit, mostly driven by startups. But the next stage of digitization is primarily going to be using a lot of these public stacks like AgriStack, and we are very excited. I think Indian agriculture is definitely at some sort of inflection point. And if we can make very interesting use cases, I think the biggest beneficiary of these tech is going to be the farmers. So thank you very much for taking the lead, and thanks for sparing time with us. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.